Hey everybody, Sean Holsinger here from holsingersflyshop.com, bringing you a nymph pattern this week. This is one that's got a lot of buzz in the shop this year. A lot of guys fishing it, doing real well with it here in my area. And it's from another YouTuber called Old Dominion Trout Bum. I'm going to talk about him a little bit more after the tying video. But this fly is called the Jack Daniels Nymph. Here you're going to see a picture of it, then the material list to tie it. Okay, here you see the Jack Daniels Nymph in the vise. Very cool, very buggy looking fly. Let's get into tying it. I'm going to tie this on a Holsinger's Fly Shop jig hook here. I like our jig hooks. They work really well for me. They hold fish nice. That's why I like them. The original pattern, he likes to use a copper bead on it. I like a silver too. I'll get into that a little bit after the video here, after the tying. For this is a size 14 hook, and for a bead here I'm using a 3/0 silver bead, slotted bead of course, with the jig hook. And for thread I'm using some 70 denier tan. He uses some Danville thread in his, but I like this tan. We don't carry Danville in the shop, and I always say use what you have. For a tail we're going to use some cocktail yarn fibers here. I'm going to take off about 8 or so fibers, 8 or 10. Strip them off, and then we're going to set it up on top of the fly here. I want it to be about the length of the fly, so you can have a little bit of long tail here, but not too long. That's a little too long. I like it about there. And then we're going to wrap that back to the bend of the hook. And then once I get back to the bend, I like to come in just one wrap underneath. Oops. Put one wrap underneath my tail there. It just helps hold it up and splay it out a little bit. There you see a nice little tail there. Then I'm going to wrap that back up towards the bead and trim it off. Now, one of the steps in his video here, Old Dominion Trout Bum, whenever he did the video, he constantly counterclockwise spun the thread, which is a great tip. It flattens out your thread, and if you want to see more on that tip, if you go to my 500th video, I interview a bunch of guys at the fly fishing show, and one of them was Barry Ord Clark, and Barry Ord Clark goes over this step in detail. And so what we're going to do is we're going to, every now and then we're going to stop, and we're going to unwind that thread, and then we're going to go back and forth, each time going back a little bit shorter, and it's going to build up a taper. Going to get you a nice and flat thread, and then we're just going to build up a taper towards that bead there. Once we get it nice and tapered well, then I'm just going to wrap this back to the tail, and we're going to put a rib on this thread. For the rib on the body here, sorry, just coming in with a black Sharpie, and I'm going to color about 2 inches of my thread here with a black Sharpie, and that's just going to change the color of the thread. Then I'm going to take and clockwise spin my thread. Just give a clockwise spin on my thread. It's going to tighten it up and make a nice tight piece of thread there. And then come in and rib this back up. Make about 5-6 turns up through there. That's good. You got a nice, really nice rib body then. Now to protect that, I'm just going to hit it with a little bit of Solarez Bone Dry. Use whatever kind of glue you have here. I just like the Bone Dry. That's what I always use, because it dries nice and quickly. Now, you can change thread here. If you want to go to a thicker thread to do your dubbing loop, that's fine. I've actually been messing with it here, and I like just keeping this same thread. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a pinch of dubbing here, and this is one of the techniques I picked up that I've never really messed with before, but I picked up from watching Old Dominion's video, and it really works well. So I like to do CDC loops, and I like to put a little dubbing, and usually I put it together on my Swiss clamp, but this time I'm just going to put the CDC in the clamp, and I'm going to put a little bit of dubbing on my loop. So I'm going to take a very small pinch, put a small little noodle on there, and then I'm going to come in with my multi-tool and make my CDC loop. So there's only going to be dubbing on one side of my loop. So make that loop, get a nice twist around here, and then split your thread. As you see there, one side has dubbing, one side is just thread. And then we're going to split that thread. One second, I forgot to wrap it around my multi-tool. Split that thread and put our CDC in there. And I want, when I put this in here, I'll show you in a second. I want to keep the butt sections of that CDC as close to the edge of the thread as possible, so you don't have it sticking out both sides. There, you can see it good. It's very short on the inside, very long on the outside. That's what we want. And then we're just going to take our dubbing tool, give that a spin, twist it up nice, and it's going to have a nice, very thin CDC in there. That's what I'm looking for. And it's going to make you a nice thin collar. And we're just going to twist that up right behind that head. As we do it, I want to wrap my threads, wrap my CDC back, push it back as I wrap, and then tie it off. I do not want a big thick collar here. I want it to sink fast. I just want to be buggy with that CDC, and I do not want it too thick. That was one of the issues I kind of had before when I put the CDC on the clamp. I always thought it was a little bit too buggy. I went very thin on my CDC too. I only used about a ½ inch long of CDC, put it ½ inch worth in my clamp, and kept my CDC fiber count down. Finish it off with a whip finish and you're done. Very cool pattern that sinks very quickly. Gonna be very buggy in the water. Last thing I'm going to do, I'm going to pull all these fibers back, take my thumbs, pull off any long ones. These are intended to be legs, so it's going to be buggy looking. And there you go, very cool pattern. Going to catch you lots of fish. Looks good in the water. Okay guys, I hope you like this fly. It's a real fish catching fly. Like I said, we've had a lot of guys in the shop this year talking about fishing it and doing really well with it. And it's from Cory at Old Dominion Trout Bum. He does a lot of fishing in my area, so this one's gonna work here in central Pennsylvania. He's done real well with it, and I said I was gonna talk a little bit about beads during the tying section there. He prefers, when he ties this, he prefers to tie it with a copper bead. I like to have a couple different beads in, especially copper and silver. I like to change with the sun conditions a lot. I found sometimes messing around, I do a little bit better bright sun. I'll like to with silver, or I'll switch with clouds. When the clouds roll, I'll switch it over to copper. I just mess around with different things. If they stop biting, change the bead color. If you have a fly that's working and they stop biting on it, change the bead color before you switch to another fly. Sometimes that makes a lot of work. I mean, makes a lot of sense and works real well for you. It's something I found a long time ago with a buddy of mine. We were trolling spinners on a lake. And as soon as the clouds would roll in, we would switch bead colors. We would catch fish, and when the clouds rolled out and the sun popped out again, we would switch colors back again on the spinner, and we would catch fish on it. So color does make a little bit of difference, but I don't get real stuck and concerned on it. A lot of times I always say it's presentation over presentation. It's how you put the fly in front of their face instead of what you put in front of their face. So as long as it's put in front of their face correctly, they're gonna open their mouth and eat it. As long as it matches the same kind of color and, you know, same silhouette. I think silhouette is a lot more important than color. Just my opinion on it, the way I think. So anyways, guys, really cool fly, very simple fly. Here you're gonna see I tied it in a couple different colors just to show you. This is a great generic style pattern. Mix it up. It's, you know, this is a style of fly you want to fish. Nice thin thread bodies, a little bit of CDC in there just to give you that buggy action. So mess around with different colors of thread on it and it'll work for you. Have fun tying. Any of the materials you need, like always, find them at our shop at holsingersflyshop.com. Need me to tie any of them, you're more than welcome to reach out to me at holsingersflyshop@gmail.com. So thanks for watching. Until next week when I bring you another fly tying video, I'm Sean Holsinger.